Hey everyone, welcome back to Toggle Vids. It's good to see ya. This is the first official episode of the Similar series, and we will be taking a look at Alba, a Wildlife Adventure. It was technically our winner of the 12 Days of Christmas series. Well, it had the most likes at the time. I'm not sure what the likes look like now. It took me a minute to put this video together, but here we are, finally! But, where should we start? I know. Let's start by quickly going over the rules of the Similar series. 1. I play a video game all the way through. 2. I build a basic description of the game based on some key points of that game that I played. 3. I go on a hunt for games that match that description that I put together. Well, at least to a point. Every game out there is special in its own way, so I'm not looking for clones. I'm just looking for games that share a similar vibe. Because sometimes we fall in love with a game and want to play more of it. Just something about the mechanics of the game, or the type of gameplay, or just the art style itself. It just made us fall in love with it. But more often than not, it's a standalone title. There's no number 2, there's no DLCs, nothing like that. So the next best thing is to find a game with a similar magic to it that matches that thing that we really loved about that game. And that's what we're doing here. So let's get started and find some games that are similar to Alba, a Wildlife Adventure. First, let's give credit where credit's due and do a little overview of Alba, a Wildlife Adventure, so we have something to base our search off of. If we jump over to Steam, let's see. Alba has 5,263 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. It was released December 11th, 2020. It was developed by Us2 Games, and it was published by Us2 Games and PID Games? PID Games? The popular suggested tags right here are casual, wholesome, cozy, family-friendly, 3D. And when we jump down here to price, it is $16.99. And that price isn't too bad in my opinion, considering the fact that each purchase helps fund reforestation efforts. In fact, this whole game focuses on wildlife conservation and just preserving nature in general, which leads to it having a very inspiring and uplifting just message about it. Now, before I jump onto the plot and show you the basic description I put together, fair warning, spoilers are ahead. So if you don't want any spoilers for Alba Wildlife Adventure or any of the other games that I played, I've put a list and links to the games on Steam down in the description. Assuming the links are working, I've heard and seen YouTube can be weird about certain links, but the list of games should be down there, unless the descriptions disappeared for some reason. At that point, I am sorry. All right, I think I've given you enough of a warning. If you're still here, I'm going to guess that you guys are good to go. So let's get going. In Alba, a Wildlife Adventure, we follow, well, Alba, who is visiting her grandparents on the island of Pinar del Mar, right before a big festival everyone is preparing for. During her visit, the islanders find out that the old nature reserve that burned down a year ago is going to be demolished and replaced with a luxury hotel. Alba and her friend Inez set out to get a petition signed by 50 people to help prevent the construction of said hotel. They go about helping locate rare birds for birdwatching enthusiasts, cleaning up parts of the island, and even rebuilding portions of the old nature reserve. Eventually, they get the signatures, save the reserve, and in the process, uncover the corruption of the mayor and the hotel developer named Paco, who seems to be the one that burned down the nature reserve a year ago. Now that's the main plot of the game, in a nutshell. There is a fun subplot involving a Iberian lynx that is believed to be extinct on the island. Alba and her friend Inez are trying to find it, and eventually, after a large fire, Alba saves the lynx and her cubs, proving that that particular species of lynx is still alive on the island. The game ends with everyone celebrating the festival they have been preparing for all week. And of course, there are some fun little side stories and interesting side characters, but if you want that, you'll have to play the game, or you can watch my playthrough of it. No commentary from me, unfortunately. I was really focused on this game while playing it, and I did not record any audio for it. It's about 3.5 hours long, but I did play the whole game. And I'm not lying about that. I did, in fact, play the whole game. I filled up the whole field guide with pictures of every animal, cleaned up the whole island, completed every quest, got all 9 achievements on Steam, and it only took me 3.5 hours. Now, I'm not saying that as if it's a bad thing, the exact opposite. I enjoy games that are not that long. I get busy like a lot of people do, and I can't always sink hours into one game. So, a nice self-contained game I can beat in under 15 hours is a big thumbs up for me, especially at that price tag of $16.99. Plus, it seems like it's on sale a whole lot, so even better. I believe I picked this one up for $4.99 roughly. So just keep an eye out if you'd like to get it at a cheaper price. Okay, so let's move on to the description/criteria that I put together to help me search for some similar games. It took me a second, but I finally landed on searching for colorful, rounded/low poly walking exploration games with wildlife photography. Now that might sound like a lot and a kind of an odd description, and it might seem like it's going to be hard for us to find something that fits that exactly. But remember, this description is meant to help narrow down the search. It's not a perfect depiction. We're just looking for something similar. And believe me, I'm definitely just looking for similar because it's hard to pin down certain things in games, especially when it comes to graphics. Many games do not adhere to just one style of graphics, and Alba, a Wildlife Adventure, is no exception. We have 3D assets that have elements of mid to low poly and rounded modeling. Most of the characters are rounded, while many of the items and assets used for the general world are mid to low poly in look. And the game's overall color palette is, well, it's fairly colorful, with oranges, light blues, and greens. So it seemed good to focus on those bright colors and rounded/low poly graphics in my initial search. It helped me find more cartoonish looking games as opposed to realistic ones, like this one, Morals, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Morals, The Hunt, which is a game about collecting mushrooms and photographing wildlife. But, as you can see, it's more realistic looking, so it didn't make this list. As to the gameplay, jumping down into the suggested tag section, we have Exploration, which I feel is very fitting, since we get to explore all of Pinar del Mar as we look for animals to photograph, things to fix, and critters to help. Now, it might seem redundant to slap walking onto that, that description of walking exploration. Don't you always walk when you're exploring? But during my search, I found this game here called Pinko Park. It's an amazing game that has you take pictures of strange wildlife in this reserve called Pinko Park. And in the suggested tag section, it has exploration. But that exploration takes place in a little cart and in turn turns it into a rail shooter, very similar to Pokemon Snap. You can't walk around and explore, which to me removes a sense of adventure, just in my opinion. I mean, think back on the very first Jurassic Park movie. They were stuck on a rail while they were trying to see the Triceratops and the T-Rex. They were in these little cars, It wasn't until they got out and started moving around that, there was a lot more adventure and running around and fearing for their lives. Yeah. That might not have been the perfect example, but I think I got something across. I'm just not entirely sure what. But that sense of adventure, I don't always get it that strongly in rail shooters. I can, but it always leaves me something to be desired, at least for me. And I'm not bagging on Pinko Park or Pokemon Snap. Both are wonderful games. I love them. But in Alba Wildlife Adventure, you have the freedom to run around and see everything. So games with wildlife photography that were rail shooter exploration games did not make this list. And at this point, I've brought up photographing animals quite a few times. In Alba Wildlife Adventure, there are a few fun mechanics like rebuilding birdhouses and structures, cleaning up garbage around the island, photographing animals, and I think that's about it, to be honest with you. It's not too crazy with what you can do. But photographing the wildlife of Pinar del Mar was by far the best part of the game, in my opinion at least. That really sucked me in. You get to fill up a field guide with pictures of each animal. It's basically just checking off boxes on a list, but it was really fun to me and really, again, sucked me in. It has a similar vibe to filling out, the Pokédex in any Pokemon game. In fact, I had a similar feeling when I was playing Cassette Beasts, filling out that whole entry. Like that, I had a lot of fun doing it in that game as well. It's exciting to see each page get filled with pictures of a different creature and find out more about, each one. Now, the photography isn't anything special. In fact, once you take a picture of an animal, you don't really get to go back and look at them and improve the picture. The photograph is, again, more about taking the picture to check off a box off of a list. than it really is to take an amazing photograph, but you still had to capture that picture of the animal. So, photographing wildlife felt like a great direction to head in for my search. Alright, so we have our basic description, our criteria, if you will, the things that I really, enjoyed about this game and the things that really sucked me in. Colorful, rounded / low poly walking exploration games with wildlife photography. And I did find a few games that match this, 3 to be precise. But which game should we start with? Let's start with the game that resembles Alba's graphics the most, again, in my opinion. Let's start with Paparazzi. Alright, so over here on Steam, Paparazzi has 394 very positive reviews. It was released January 20th, 2022, developed by Sunday Month, and published by Kit Fox Games. If we look at the, popular user-defined tags, we have exploration, perfect, photo editing, great, simulation, sandbox, and if we jump down to the price tag, it is $19.99. In Paparazzi, we play as this little robot camera dude. Our goal is to take on and complete requests from individuals on social media. With each request completed, we receive more followers on social media, improving our standing with this little king pupper right here. This little guy has also asked us to fill out the Pupapedia with pictures of, puppers. And that's about it, but that's fine. This game doesn't seem to have the most in-depth story, but the focus really does seem to be more on relaxing and taking pictures of dogs. And that's just fine. Now, in terms of graphics, I feel that Paparazzi is closest to Alba Wildlife Adventure, at least on this list that I've put together. It caught my eye with its bright colors, but also its nice blend of rounded and low poly game assets. Nothing is overly detailed, and everything is generally cute in its look. If we take a look at the suggested tag section, we can see that Expedition is in there, and although it's not an open world experience, there are plenty of levels that are free to run around in and explore. And with this jump our robot camera dude can do, we can explore quite a bit of each level. Now, photography is in fact the core mechanic of this game, even more so than Alba Wildlife Adventure. In Alba, we use our phone to just take a quick pic and fill out a data entry, but in Paparazzi, we are purchasing and collecting various film types and camera lenses to produce fun pictures of various dogs in order to fill up the Pupapedia, which is, I wasn't sure what it was for the longest time. I kept hearing about it, but I couldn't find it, and eventually I had to look it up. You see, you have to access it from this home level, and it shows you the different clothes the dogs need to be wearing or actions they need to be performing when you take the pictures. Now, I did not finish the Pupapedia. I didn't have a lot of drive for it. Online, it says it takes around 4 hours to 100% the game. I tapped out around an hour and a half, shortly after I got the credits to roll. They roll at kind of an odd time, right before you go to the moon. So I wouldn't say I finished the game, but to be honest with you, once the credits did roll, I didn't have a lot of drive to continue onwards after that. It has cute graphics, fun gameplay, an interesting world, but the lack of a storyline is often a deal breaker for me. And if there is a storyline there, it wasn't very in your face, not from what I could see. But if you're looking to photograph cute cartoon dogs, I would 100% recommend this game. Now, in terms of story, our next game is actually pretty on theme with Alba, a wildlife adventure. In fact, it also discusses preserving nature from a more magical viewpoint. For our second game, we'll be looking at Beasts of Maravilla Island. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. If we jump over to Steam here, we can see that, at least on Steam, it has 199 very positive reviews. It was released June 12th, 2021. It was developed by Banana Bird Studio and LLC, and it was published by Whitethorn Games. Jumping down here to the suggested tags, we have exploration. Oh, perfect, thumbs up. Collection, puzzle, 3D, cute. And if we take a look at the price tag, it is $9.99. In Beasts of Maravilla Island, we follow a young woman by the name of Marina as she travels to the mysterious island of Maravilla, a place her grandfather visited long ago, a place that is, to most of the world, just a myth. As she explores its jungles, rivers, and mountaintops, she takes pictures of the magical creatures that live there. She soon finds she is being led by a giant deer-like creature simply known as the Island Spirit. It helps her discover that her grandfather accidentally hurt the magic of this island of Marabia by stealing a piece of a broken gem from a creature known as the Golden Crowned Griffin. This creature attacks and steals her grandfather's journal, which has the gem embedded in it. Marina follows the griffin to the ruins of this temple, and with the help of the island's spirit, calms down the Golden Crowned Griffin and returns the gem. It's fun to see wildlife conservation come from a more magical viewpoint. The animals of Marabia all resemble creatures we would see in our world, like birds and monkeys, but with more fantastical aspects to them, which makes photographing them honestly pretty fun. Now, does this game have exploration where you can walk around? Yes, when it comes to exploration, this game is broken up into 4 levels. There is the Maravian Shore, the Singing Jungle, the Glimmering River, and the Painted Plateau. Although the Maravian Shore is very short compared to the other levels, throughout each level, you get to walk around as Marina, climb up giant vines, and interact with simple puzzles to progress through each level. Often the puzzle is taking a picture of an animal performing a certain action, and then cataloging those pictures in your grandfather's journal. But there are steps that lead up to taking that picture, like getting the snail that has a gem for a shell into the right position for the light to reflect off it so it shines on these rainbow-crested Quetzal monkeys. Now, how do graphics look? Well, this game might be the farthest from Alba on this list. It has low poly and mid poly designs for most of the assets, including the characters and creature models. Nothing is too rounded in its look, and the colors are darker for the most part. Not very bright and vibrant, aside from some of the creatures, which isn't a bad thing. It helps the creatures stand out. However, this final level, the Painted Plateau, did remind me of some of the evening segments of Alba Wildlife Adventure. So, not a perfect match, but it was similar, which is what we are looking for. Oh, and speaking of similar, like Alba, it is also a short game. It only took me an hour and a half to beat the main storyline. But upon completing the game, you have the opportunity to go back and take pictures of every animal and plant performing different actions. I didn't do that, but I didn't care as much about taking pictures of animals doing different things. That aspect of the game just didn't suck me in. I really liked taking pictures of just different animals. Once I got them and got a little information on them, that kind of, gave me the satisfaction I was looking for. I didn't need to take pictures of them doing different crazy things. Again, it just didn't suck me in that regard. Okay, let's move on to our third and final game for this list. Now, I would like to mention that this game was on my radar, but I kept putting it off because I just thought it looked weird. And it is, but in a good way. And surprisingly enough, out of all the games on this list, its photography was closest to Alba. It's gonna sound crazy, but in many regards, it really was. Our third game is Bugsnax. Alright, jumping over here to Steam, we can see that Bugsnax has 6,177 overwhelmingly positive reviews. It was released April 28th, 2022, and it was developed and published by Young Horses. If we jump down here to the popular user-defined tags, the suggested tag section, we have Creature Collector, Adventure, Single Player, Cute. Let's see. Where is there exploration? There's exploration right there. Okay, sweet. Exploration's there in the tag section. And if we jump down here to the price, it is $24.99. Now, I'm going to get into the plot, but fair warning, I'm not going to go too deep. This game took me about 13 hours to beat, and I did the optional DLC that comes with the game. If I went over everything story-wise, this video would be another half hour long at least. How do I know that? Because this is actually the 4th script I have worked on, and the length of every single one of my recordings before this was nearing the hour mark, and a little longer. It wasn't until I removed the full in-depth look of Bugsnax that it suddenly got down to a more manageable length. So I'm just going to give the plot to you in a nutshell. In Bugsnax, we follow a Grumpus. What is a Grumpus? Well, it's this Muppet / Sesame Street monster-looking creature. This is a Grumpus. They are, Alright, according to bugsnax.fandom.com/wiki/Grumpus, at least, they are the dominant species in the world of Bugsnax, like humans in our world. We play as a Grumpus, simply known as the Journalist, and he has come to Snacktooth Island to write an article on a small community of Grumpuses that have established a town called Snacksburg, and to write on the strange creatures of the island called Bugsnax. that upon consumption turn portions of the Grumpus's body into food that resembles the bug snacks that they ate. The journalist gets marooned on the island and helps rebuild Snacksburg and assemble all of the Grumpuses that have disappeared. They all decided to leave Snacksburg once their leader, Elizabeth Megafig, disappeared. Now, the journalist gets everybody back by helping with multiple little tasks that range from testing out new inventions to catching bug snacks for each one of them. As the journalist explores the island, questions arise about the ancient inhabitants of Snacktooth Island. Elizabeth Megafig is found, and the horrifying truth of bug snacks is revealed. Now, that quick little description does not do the game justice. The story is really fun and sucked me in. Plus, I had a great time helping out each of the Grumpuses with their personal problems and learning about each one of them. They all have these fun little quirks to them. I really enjoyed it. But the story is filled with a lot of mystery and lore, and this video isn't a deep dive into the world of bug snacks. I really recommend this game. But today, we are just seeing if it's similar to Alba, a wildlife adventure. And surprisingly, it is. Now, in terms of graphics, this game is not riddled with low poly and mid poly characteristics. Some assets like trees or rocks and pieces of bug snacks incorporate low poly and mid poly art, but it's not a dominant look. However, the Grumpuses and certain bug snacks are rounded in their design. You know, they're more roundy, kind of circular and oval-like in some areas. Alba definitely has more spheres for heads, but the animals that are in Alba are made up of wait a second. Oh, a 3D oval is called an ellipsoid. Huh, interesting. Many of the animal limbs and body parts of creatures in Alba, a wildlife adventure, are ellipsoids. Now, the Grumpuses are not human like Alba, so they look a lot different, but they are still rounded in their look. Not exactly the same, but similar in certain aspects. Another aspect of the graphics, though, is that the color scheme is generally, it's pretty bright. There are multiple different levels with different colors, but in general, this was a very colorful game. Lots of blues and greens and oranges and reds, and yes, it was very colorful. Again, not exactly the same as Alba, but similar in certain aspects. Now is there walking exploration in this game. Like Alba, we get a whole island to explore. However, it is broken up into different levels that open up as the main story progresses. But you do have the freedom to walk around and explore each level pretty much to your heart's content. We even get items like this lunch pad. Yes, I did say lunch, not launch. This game has a food theme and it's sticking to it, which I really appreciated. This item launches us up into the air and helps us get to hard to reach places and shoot stuff at things. But this isn't the only tool that you get to use. In fact, there are multiple fun items that you get to use, like this snack trap, or this sauce slinger, or this buggy ball. I really had fun leading this little bug snack around with this laser pointer. It got a smile out of me. And speaking of tools, we are a character called the Journalist. We do in fact have a camera that is called the Snack Scope. We use it to take pictures of the bug snacks and help map out the path that each one of the bug snacks is taking so we can more effectively lay down traps and capture each one of them so that the Grumpuses can eat them. But much like Alba, the quality of the photograph doesn't matter. What matters is that with each picture taken, information is added to the Bugopedia right here. Yep, this right here. There, right there, the Bugopedia. And we learn more about each bug snack. It's kind of funny, but during my search for games similar to Alba, I ran across a lot of photography games, and I got a little frustrated. Nothing was really working or clicking quite right. I eventually got to the point where I decided that instead of looking for games that focus on photography, I would Google games that have cameras as usable items in them, and that led me to finding bug snacks. Granted, I shelved this game and played a few others before I really gave bug snacks a chance. But I'm happy I did. I think it was probably my favorite game on this list. It's not a perfect match for Alba Wildlife Adventure, but none of these games are. I just wanted to find some that were colorful, rounded / low poly walking exploration games with wildlife photography, or at least similar. Now, I did play quite a few games during my search, so I have a few bonus games I'd love to share with you guys. They didn't fit the description that I came up with as well as these other 3 games, but they were still fun. I still enjoyed them. They came close in certain aspects, so I'd love to share them with you. But this will be quick, and not a long explanation of each game. More like word vomit. I'm just gonna throw them at you super quick. Are you ready? If you are, let's go. First, Panko Park. It had a low poly world and interesting 2D creatures that you get to photograph. But it was kind of darker in its colors and a rail shooter, like Pokemon Snap. So it didn't make the list. Second, Pokemon Snap. A bright and colorful game with low poly game assets, but a rail shooter. So it didn't make the list. Third, new Pokemon Snap. I could take pictures of wildlife and bright colors. Again, but also again, a rail shooter. So again, it didn't make the list. Fourth, Weird Mies. A short, goofy game with a little bit of dark comedy and a dark setting, which was kind of fun. Plus a lot of rounded character models, and you could take pictures of a lot of moose. Quite a few moose, in fact. But the game was again dark, and the photography was off compared to Alba. Fifth, Umurangi Generation. A very low poly world and a lot of fun picture taking, but the world was dark and seemed to be focused on fulfilling requests to take pictures of random things, like graffiti or boomboxes. Not so much animals. Well, yes to this penguin, but the animals were not the focus. And sixth, our last game on this list, Alakon. This one almost made it. Bright colors, photography of mystical dreamlike creatures, rounded and low poly elements to characters and environment models, but unfortunately, it is a rail shooter. Kind of. No, definitely. But if you unlock all the pathways on a level, you then have the ability to run around on foot and take pictures, which I thought was pretty fun and a great idea. But you still have to complete the level on a predetermined track. You're forced to do rail shooting. So because of that, it didn't make the list, but it was very, very, very close. Well, I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, but if not, I hope I at least gave you some fun games to go and check out. We all need something to relax to, right? And if you feel there were any games that should have made this list, or you have some fun experience playing any of these games, throw them down in the comments. It's fun seeing other people's perspectives on games and learning about different games. It's easy for them to get lost in the shuffle. That is, well, the world of gaming itself. There's so many games out there. It is crazy how many are out there. It would be awesome to play all of them, but in this moment, I hope I gave you all a couple recommendations that you can enjoy, and thank you again for stopping in, and until next time, have a good one. Bye.